Hi, I'm Paris, and as little as I know about gardening now, I knew far less 6 years ago when I ordered several cubic yards of topsoil with this plan I had to put in this wonderful garden in the back corner of our yard. I thought 4 cubic yards, how much can that be? Until they dumped it in the driveway and I had to get it all back here. Now I could have put it in raised beds, which I realize now would have been the smart thing to do, but no, I had the great idea that I was going to, by hand, excavate this entire corner of the yard about 1 foot deep and bring my topsoil and put it in there. Now you notice I'm digging it all up again. Why in the world am I doing that? Well, it's because at that point 6 years ago I had the great idea I didn't want weeds. I know I didn't want to have to weed the garden, so I had heard if you bought weed barrier it would keep you from ever needing to do any weeding. So to save myself that trouble, I bought so much of this material and I very carefully laid it out once I had done my excavating, laid it down, double layers, crosswise, every which way to make sure I wouldn't get any weeds. What I actually accomplished, because I realize now weeds don't sprout up from 8 to 10 inches down underneath the soil, they're in the top portion of the soil that's getting the light. So I didn't block any weeds. I did interfere with some of the water being able to drain through, but worst of all, the roots of the plants I'm growing can't get through that material, which didn't matter so much when I was growing flowers and other things here, but now it's sweet potato. Sweet potato need to be able to go underground, spread out, spread down to put the roots out so they can put those potatoes in. I also wish I had drawn out some plans or taken more photos of this when I originally put it in because it's all grown over with grass now, so I don't remember exactly where everything is, but I pretty much now have to dig out this entire back section of the yard. This was supposed to be about 10 feet by 6 feet, and over here there were several, I think 6 feet by 4 feet sections. So those cubic yards of soil that I brought from the driveway, brought back here, excavated those cubic yards out, put those cubic yards in. I'm now taking those cubic yards back out, and then once more I will put those cubic yards back in, never to have to do it again. Never again. The other issues I have are that though I intended to dig 1 foot deep originally, it's hard work digging, and I was in a lot worse shape than I am today back in those days. So I'd say I got 6 to 8 inches in before I said that'll be enough for the plants to grow. In my defense though, you don't have to go down very far here before you hit limestone bedrock. This house on the west side of Austin is right where the hill country start, and so there's lots of outcroppings of rocks that you are not going to be moving out of the way. So this 10 foot by 4 foot bed is duplicated right here, I believe, right underneath where I piled all the soil from this. And then over here I think I have 4 shorter 6 foot by maybe 3 foot beds I've got to dig up here. Now my Fitbit says I'm giving myself quite a workout, so if it turns out that digging this garden is to be the end of me, that's fine, I'm okay with it. I say just put me in the ground right back here, but the problem is it's only 8 inches deep. I feel kind of like Charlie Brown in an episode of You Blockhead, which follows up with Charlie Brown, what's going on in his life when he's in his mid-50s. On the plus side, now that I've got one bed cleared of this, once I get the soil put back in and sift out some of the clumps of grass and weeds, I'll be able to get my sweet potato slips in the ground. Got the first layer of soil shoveled back into the bed. Now to start doing some amending. Sweet potatoes grow better in a sandier, loamier soil, so here's some sand. Let me rake that in. The rest of the grass out. And now for the blood meal. Don't want to use too much of this because the nitrogen can burn the roots if it's over concentrated. Don't do it on a windy day. A lot of it seems to blow with the slightest breeze. I think I've inhaled beef. I don't know if that affects my vegetarian status. And to show I actually do own a farming implement, I'm going to use my hoe to mix that into the soil. And for good measure, I'm going to mix in 1 cubic foot of organic garden soil. My sweet potatoes shall want for nothing, except maybe a little more sun. If digging the holes don't get me, climbing the trees to cut the branches just might. Shovel the soil back in, put a little bit more sand, gonna put a little bit more blood meal. We'll rake and hoe that in, and then I'm going to use the garden soil to form a couple of mounds. I'm gonna have a couple mounds running along it, and then I'll get planting. Well, there are my mounds, though I think they actually turned out more like landing strips, using that in the aeronautical sense. Time to bring out my potato slips. It's been about a week since I broke these off of the potatoes, and I planted them in these little Jiffy soil packs, expecting the roots to grow, and man, they sure have. They're already growing through the other side, so now I'm gonna tear the fabric off of these, plant them. First one in the ground. I got room for plenty more. I'm doing all Stokes sweet potato in this bed. Those are the sweet potato that are purple on the outside and the inside, and are full of those anthocyanins that are so good for you. In fact, these are Stokes sweet potato, and I'm going to take all of these slips and get them planted now directly from this to the garden, rather than going through the intermediate step of putting them into a cup of soil to get the roots started. And now with a little watering, they are ready to grow. So much potential, but you don't really know what's going to happen. You just do your best and cross your fingers, sort of like with having kids. Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss the next exciting episode of Sweet Potato Garden, and I'll see you on the next review.